Good day, and thank you, ANIET, for inviting me to this conference. I've had the privilege of attending several of them in the last 2 decades, and it's always a pleasure to be there. Although this time we are going to do it in a very new manner of meeting each other. Well, we are now at the tail end of an unprecedented emergency, of a pandemic that has changed our lives upside down in so many ways. But we are hopefully approaching the end of this nightmare. There are new social realities. Some of them are probably going to remain with us for a long, long time. People have been spending more time at home. People have been working from home. What does this mean? It means that people, instead of spending just 2 days a week, the weekend, when they spend the whole day, they look at their homes in a different way. So the last year and a half, in fact, the last 15 months, there has been a massive increase in home renovation in the developed world, European Union and United States especially. And that's what explains some of the bottlenecks that are taking place today. All those sofa sets, the curtains, home furnishings, everything that is made in Asia has been going towards the developed world, creating all kinds of bottlenecks. But more renovation, the sensibility towards more renovation, home renovation, means that people have not just been changing the kitchen countertop or the bathroom, just about every aspect of their homes, the living room, the dining room, the terrace, everything has been seen by the homeowners in a different way, and there has been home renovation. This is the reason why, for the first time ever probably, the stone companies are not complaining of lack of orders. They are complaining of something different, logistic issues, for example. We have another social phenomenon that is new now, home delivery to everything else. Now, how does that affect us? Think of it this way. When less people go out to restaurants, when less people go out to do their shopping because everything comes home, the shopping malls have less people, less footfalls. Now, there was a study that just came out recently. 1/4 of the shopping malls in USA are going to go bankrupt in the next 2 years. But it also means that for the rest of the world, restaurants, shopping malls, the stores selling clothes or whatever, they are going to be struggling for several years from now on. When people work from home, or maybe they do work in a hybrid way, there is more office space available. And what we are seeing already in that many office spaces, there is a surplus. In crowded cities, there are many buildings that are absolutely with empty floors. In other words, for the next few years, we should expect less construction in the commercial sector. Then climate change is another concept that has now become very serious. What does that mean for us? Well, already the architects are taking the concept of carbon footprint very seriously when they're deciding on building materials. I had the privilege of attending a symposium organized by the Norman Foster Foundation a couple of weeks ago. And there's one figure that's really stood out for me. 60 billion square meters of space will be created in the next 10 years. 60 billion square meters. That's a lot of construction that's going to be coming up. Now, architects and interior designers, and not interior designers maybe, but perhaps urban planners, they will be asking the carbon footprint for F-stones. They already are, actually. In other words, for the stone companies and the stone quarrying mining companies, they not only need to know the absorption degree of the stones, the strength, the bending strength of the stones, they will be asked questions like, hey, what is the carbon footprint of your stone? And it's time the companies and the associations get ready to answer these questions. Because when an architect makes a building, he's allotted a certain carbon points. How much of that will be occupied by building material becomes an important criteria in this concept. So urban planners are also redesigning cities now to make the carbon footfall less, which means that not only a particular square which is old and broken is going to get renovated, probably we will see the whole redesign of cities in such a way that people have to walk close to whatever they need. That means the concept of pavings will be much more than what we really think so far, especially in Europe, which has a culture of using natural stone in all its exterior pavings. There has also been another new social trend, tentative, but we will soon know. For example, the change in fashion trends. We are suddenly seeing in the last few months a greater preference for warmer colors, for more patterns. Onyx is in fashion, brown color is in fashion. People are asking for more for green, for example. There is greater interest in red. Travertine is back in fashion. So suddenly the interior designers and architects seem to want something different again. That could be good for many of us, not very good for some of us. But there are also some new economic realities. For example, the biggest headache for anyone today is the logistics. Nobody expected that to happen, but this is now the biggest issue which can actually crash the world economy if it's not sorted out soon. You have so many problems in logistics: availability of containers, availability of shipping routes, high shipping costs, so high that it's not even economical to export sometimes, shortage of truck drivers, delays in deliveries. They have all created a huge bunch of problems. Some of them will be sorted out soon, hopefully, because surely the world economy cannot work with so many supply chain disruptions. But we are already seeing some consequences. For example, cheap stone is being sold less to distant places than before. How can it be competitive when the transport costs more than the material? Premium colored stone has less problems. The additional cost can be passed on to the final customer. Now, new opportunities have come up for the Portuguese and Spanish companies as they replace cheaper Chinese stone in European markets. So that has been the positive aspect of it. Indian tombstone manufacturers, for example, they have been replacing the cheaper products coming from China and Vietnam. So there are always winners and losers, and this is taking place now. What we are seeing also is the architects are not just looking for aesthetic criteria and carbon footprint. They also want to have safety of supply. Hey, if I'm going to specify a particular stone for a project, no matter how much I like it, I want to be sure that it will be there at the project site when I need it. So what's happening? People are trying to avoid sometimes specifying a stone which has to be transported over long distances through ships. So what we had a phenomenon before, globalization, is becoming regionalization. I would prefer to, for example, the architect say, I would prefer to use a stone which can be transported by truck, which doesn't have to go through ships. So that's a new phenomenon that's taking place. And then there's the new one. We never really expected it, but it's a big, big one. The slowdown in China. There seems to be a property bubble, speculation-based construction that has been taking place for several years. And finally, the bubble seems to be pricked. Now, what is happening is many real estate companies are in problem, financial problems. Many homes are half finished. Many homes have been finished but are unsold. I read somewhere just a few days ago, 20% of the houses that are being constructed are unsold. Many people have been buying second and the third homes, not because they need it, but because of speculation. Now, one thing to remember, whenever a property bubble has burst, it takes several years for normal life to return. In Japan, the property bubble burst 30 years ago. It never really recovered. In USA, post 2008, 2009, it took 7-8 years before construction activity picked up again. In Spain, which also collapsed the property bubble in about 2008, 2009, it never really recovered. Dubai, it went down 5-6 years ago. There still is a surplus of just about everything. So how long before China will come back to its previous rate of construction? Definitely not for the next few years. In other words, even though, as we all hope, China's economy, its construction industry acquires stability again, and hopefully soon, the amount of imports is going to be definitely much less than before. Already, there are thousands of tons of tundra grey marked by the Chinese buyers and still not picked up in Turkey. You have exports of black galaxy and tan brown and other materials that have come to a complete halt. So the disaster is already being felt by the stone industry in many ways. Now, also another new reality, the pent-up demand in home renovation, which actually was a pleasant surprise to the stone industry because it gave them a lot of orders. It's a pent-up demand. What would have been done in 10 years has been done in 2 years, or 1.5 years. Sooner or later, that pent-up demand will come to an end. Maybe next year, maybe somewhere in 2023. And then what? A big slump can come. We need to be prepared for that. There is also a shortage of skilled laborers everywhere, in every industry. Of course, in the stone industry, as we have been seeing, there has been greater automation in the stone factories, in the workshops. But that is becoming a bottleneck also because the problem of shortage of skilled laborers has no solution. Demographically, the workforce is becoming smaller in many countries. And also, a very important question that every stone company owner should ask himself. If there is a skilled worker who knows how to handle the CNC machines, etc., why will he work in the natural stone industry when he probably has many other alternatives? This is a serious problem for us today, likely to become even more serious in the future. Now, vaccination process took place quite reasonably fast in the European Union and USA and was slower in the emerging markets. But now it's catching up everywhere, which means that the pent-up demand in the emerging markets will probably pick up next year in 2022. India is already recovering very fast. Now, the high energy prices have actually brought to life, at least somewhat, the Gulf markets. These are all good news. And I use the Gulf markets because Portugal, I know, has an important presence there. But they are still very price-sensitive markets. And they may not be reaching that level of activity as they were till 2016 or 17. Now, we have had very low interest rates and massive printing of money because we were going through an emergency. The government forgot about fiscal balance, fiscal responsibility. But when normal times return, which is very soon, government will be asked to maintain fiscal discipline. Now, what does that mean? Higher taxes. Start being ready to pay higher taxes in just about everything. That is the reality. Inflation is also back. Whether it is temporary or permanent, I don't know. Even the central bankers in different countries are debating this issue. But the fact is this. Whether you are a quarry owner, whether you're a factory owner or a wholesaler, your costs have increased. Input costs have increased. You simply have to raise your sales price. Now, in an industry where undercutting the competitor is absolutely a fundamental aspect of our industry, this is becoming a very, very dangerous phenomenon. When an industry survives on undercutting competitors, it's very price sensitive. The margins are obviously very low. But when costs go up, then suddenly a company can start losing money, no matter how much orders it may have, no matter how much it may be selling. Now, premium price stone producers don't have this problem as much. When you are selling a premium price stone, you are able to pass on the increased costs to the end customer. Not so with cheap stone. And then we have the new international artificial materials. Well, they're hardly new anymore. They've been around for a decade. And they have taken away a very significant part of the market share in kitchen countertops and claddings. That will continue. But pavings, they are not there. And that opportunity for the Portuguese and the Spanish companies should probably continue for a long time. The point to remember is this. When you specialize in thick pavings, in a low value added product, one aspect of business, one rule of business is there will always be someone cheaper than you sooner or later. When the name of the game is a lower price, sooner or later, there will always be someone coming with a lower price. In other words, it's a very vulnerable, dangerous business model. And that is the reality. The conclusion. It is a very highly volatile situation we have right now, with unprecedented uncertainties and unprecedented challenges. It's not unique to the metal stone industry. Business models in all industries are being turned upside down. There is no magic bullet in today's world for the survival of companies. But we have seen one thing though. Wherever there's innovation, wherever there is an industry developing new products, new applications, looking for new distributors, looking for new ways of doing business, those kind of industries, those kind of companies tend to survive better, tend to do better. Hopefully that will happen in the stone industry too. Nothing is new, and yet everything is new. Thank you.